What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another video. If you don't know who I am, that means you're new. I'm Mark. What's good with y'all? Go check out my other videos. Check them out. Check them out. But first, stay on this one. There's another episode of my series of 3 handguns that are better for home defense than concealed carry. This is part 2, so let's get right into it. So, for starters, number 1 is going to be the Smith & Wesson SD9VE. Now, I'm sure some of y'all are wondering, well, why is that on this list? You also put that gun on the list of good all-around guns. Well, yes, I 100% did. However, just because it is good as an all-around gun doesn't also mean that it's, not better for home defense than concealed carry. I'm going to get right into it. So, for anybody who knows anything about the Smith & Wesson SD9VE, you guys already know it is a 16 plus 1 round 9mm gun. Let me see here. I believe it's a 4-inch barrel. I could be mistaken. That honestly, I don't check into barrel inches too much as far as that goes. That's not my number one concern or my number one priority. However, it is not generally a small gun. It does have a rail on it, which makes it good to have a light on there, which makes it even better for home defense than it would be for concealed carry. However, is it impossible to conceal carry that gun? No, it is not impossible to. However, I will simply say that for anybody who has concealed carry one before, you will admit too that the grip on the SD9VE is like sandpaper. That shit rubbing on your stomach hurts like hell. Now, of course, you can sit there and just wear an undershirt, makes it a bit more comfortable. However, then you got a couple of problems that you're worrying about. I live in Florida, right? So the temperature is stupid high here. The humidity is insane. So the thought of adding another layer of clothing is just almost beyond me. That is an insane thought in my head. However, I do see people that still do it. Now, due to the fact that the grip itself, very uncomfortable when it's rubbing up against your skin. And as I said, if you're in a state like I am, like Florida, you're probably not going to want to wear an extra layer just so that way you're not getting a rash on your stomach or whatever from concealed carrying it. The trigger itself, this is one of the few things that might make it better for concealed carry than home defense. The trigger itself is decently heavy. I would argue maybe 7 pounds, 8 pounds. It is not a light trigger pull by any standard. However, despite the fact that there is that heavy trigger pull, that also can be useful for home defense, especially for people who are very new to firearms, who they need to sit there and, understand, okay, yes, I'm deliberately making, the conscious decision of pulling this trigger. It's not something that, somebody who doesn't have the 4 rules of gun safety ingrained in their head can accidentally have a negligent discharge on unless they were sitting there being really fucking dumb with. Overall, it's a bit too large than I would argue for concealed carry. Is it impossible? No. The capacity is a pretty good capacity for either concealed carry or home defense. However, it's definitely more so leaning towards a home defense capacity. The reason why I say that is because generally speaking, if you want a good concealed carry gun, you want to be able to conceal it a bit better. There are some guns that you can get that capacity with that are a lot more concealable, but the Smith & Wesson SD9VE is not one of those. So with that being said, that about, just sums up number 1 for you, Smith & Wesson SD9VE. And keep in mind, guys, I want to point this out, and I probably will point this out during every single video of this series I'm doing. Just because these guns are on the list does not mean that they are bad options. Now, for example, the Smith & Wesson SD9VE, as I said before, while being great for home defense, can still be concealed carried. It's not that it's impossible, it's just that it definitely is better for home defense than concealed carry. Now, moving on to number 2, we have the Ruger 5.7. The Ruger 5.7 is very, very popular, at least here in Florida. Some people might be wondering, why is that? Well, that's because we have just a bunch of hood niggas down here who have an affinity for the 5.7 round. And, that's perfectly fine. It's a pretty dope round, low recoil. You get a good capacity out of it. However, generally speaking, a majority of guns chambered in 5.7 are going to be a good bit larger than your normal concealed carry gun would be. I believe it is Smith & Wesson or PSA. I can't remember which one, but I'm pretty sure it's Smith & Wesson. As I said, though, I could be wrong. They just released, not just released, but a while ago released a compact, quote unquote, 5.7 gun. And I believe the capacity is still like 20 rounds or something plus one. It's a great capacity. That any gun chambered in the 5.7 by 28 millimeter round is going to have a great capacity. There is no arguments there. However, they are just not going to be small guns, generally speaking. And does that really have anything to do with the capacity itself? No. Does that have anything to do with the round itself? Possibly. I do need to do a bit more research on the 5.7 round. However, I can say that due to just the general size that most 5.7 handguns come in, the Ruger 5.7 is not going to be your best bet for concealed carry. It has a great capacity for it. It's a low recoil round, which is phenomenal. However, it's not going to be your best bet for concealed carry. Home defense is a whole other situation. Its size makes it a good bit easier to shoot. Obviously, that also carries over to concealed carry. However, in concealed carry, you kind of need to give up comfortability and size, to conceal better. Back to what I was saying though, for home defense. It is a large enough gun that you can get a nice, good grip on it. It'd be comfortable enough to shoot if you need to in a home defense situation. The 5.7 round, as I mentioned before, is a very low recoil round, and you get a good capacity out of it. So, with that being the case, I think as a whole, it's pretty. Not to mention, hold on. Let's not ignore the fact that it also has a rail on it for a light. And if I'm not mistaken, there are MOS versions out there, so you can get a red dot on it. Now, both of those things, are those necessarily, bad things for concealed carry versus home defense? Not necessarily. I know people who, carry with a dot and a light on their gun. That's not really my concern. However, those things are especially useful in a home defense situation. Why? Well, because in a lot of home defense situations, it's going to be a bit darker. That's generally how they get you. Now, I will say most break ins as a whole happen between 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. That is not me that's saying it. I believe it was the FBI who did that statistics. However, it's the FBI. Y'all know how they are with their statistics. I actually just did a video on statistics. Go ahead and check it out. But my whole point, generally speaking, is that in a situation where you're defending your home, a light can only be helpful. People try to hide in very dark and small places. It can only be helpful. A red dot can only be helpful. And is this to say that both of those things are bad for concealed carry? Not at all. It's just that they are extraordinarily helpful in a home defense situation. So I think that about wraps it up for number 2. The Ruger 5.7, as I said before, it's a great gun, great for home defense. Concealed carry, I wouldn't give it the number one slot, mainly due to size. But another reason, for example, in case some of y'all are just like, oh, well, I need another reason other than size. I carry full size guns all the time. Okay, so I don't recommend carrying guns that have slide cuts in them. The Ruger 5.7 comes with slide cuts in them. I have tried finding one that doesn't have slide cuts. I cannot for the life of me. So, as far as I can tell, the Ruger 5.7 does come with some slide cuts in it. So that already takes it, just out of the concealed carry options, in my opinion, due to the fact that when I'm concealed carrying, I want something that, look, I do a decently physical job. Sometimes my guns end up covered in dust, dirt, all types of gunk. And, I want them to still be able to function. I want them to not get a bunch of shit in the internals, which is why I'm against having slide cuts on my concealed carry gun. So therefore, that would already take the Ruger 5.7 completely out of the option of concealed carry, in my opinion. But its large size does have a large factor to do with it. It has a good bit to do with it. Now, moving on, this gun, I will say, I do not have too much experience with. The Ruger 5.7, I have, minimal experience with as well. However, I do have some level of experience with it. But the FN 510. So the FN 510 is, from what I'm hearing, a solid gun. It is obviously FN's 10 millimeter variant of their, I guess, 5.0 whatever series. I don't know exactly what they call that series itself, whether it's their 500 series or whether that would technically be copyright infringement on Mossberg's 500 series. I don't know, but regardless, my whole point is that the FN 510 is a full-size 10 millimeter handgun. If I'm not mistaken, comes with a threaded barrel, light for you to be able to put a rail for you to be able to put a light or a laser on it. And if I'm also not mistaken, they have MOS variants. So with a full-size 10 millimeter, one, I personally, would I go for 10 millimeter as my concealed carry caliber? Probably not. The main reason why is because I personally am not in situations where 10 millimeter is too much needed. I understand more if you're in a more rural area, you know, maybe some places even like Alaska or whatever, you're even out in the fucking woods, whatever. You know what I mean? And you might, you know, you need something that has a bit more stopping power to it because you're going to run into more than just your standard two-legged creature, to say the least. You know, then yeah, I could see how 10 millimeter might be a more viable option for you. However, in my case, I live in a very populated city-like area. I'm not exactly, you know, in the woods, you know, going out seeing bears and seeing some, you know, larger animals that I would have to worry about. You know what I mean? Now, due to simply just the fact that it's a full size 10 millimeter handgun, this is obviously not going to be anything that is, you know, very optimal for concealed carry. However, home defense itself is an entirely different situation. A 10 millimeter round, I believe, would be much more suitable for home defense if you live in a city like area. Like if you live in a more city-ish area and you're like, hey, I really want a 10 millimeter. That's what I want for my home defense gun. You know, yeah, I can see how like the FN 510 would be a, you know, good idea for you there. You know, it's a full size 10 millimeter. You know, you're using it for home defense. Worst comes to worst, it's your own property that's getting screwed over here. That's if you miss or if it over penetrates. However, that would probably be the largest handgun caliber I go to for home defense. That might even be a little bit too large, in my opinion, for concealed carry. However, is it to say that it's not going to do the job for concealed carry? No, not at all. I mean, there's literal videos, even in like the state of Florida and counties very close to my county, where people have used 10 millimeters for self-defense, and it has been very effective. So is this to say the round itself is bad, or, you know, maybe the gun is bad itself just because it's chambered in that round? No. Obviously, none of these guns on this list are bad by any standard. However, due to its size, due to the fact that the round is 10 millimeter, you do need to be a bit more conscious about over penetration when it comes to being in a concealed carry situation versus a home defense situation. It's probably going to be a better option for home defense than concealed carry. Now, think about, excuse me, I can English. Jeez, I messed up my words like 3 or 4 times in this video. But with that being said, I think that about wraps it up for this video. Y'all make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, hit that bell. When you hit that bell, hit all. And because you agree with me, even if you don't, honestly, if you don't agree with me and you carry one of these guns and, you know, you're like, yeah, this is my everyday carry, I have no problem with it, you know, tell me your experience down below with carrying these guns and let me know whether or not how you were able to do it. Now, with that being said, if you do agree with me, make sure to check out all my other videos. And if you don't, check them all out. Y'all make sure to stay legal, stay safe, stay dangerous. Have a good one, y'all. Peace.